Hey everyone, it's Orange. Welcome to my March 2017 Rune and Dungeon Team Showcase video. It's been one whole year since I made my first Rune Showcase video. I actually started playing in September of 2015. I started making videos in January, and then it took me till March to think of the idea to make monthly videos to show you guys how my runes were progressing and stuff like that. So that's super awesome. Happy birthday, Rune Showcase videos. Okay, so let's get right into it. Actually, first, let me talk about what I focused on free rune removal kind of quickly. In one of my recent Path to Decencies, I think it was like 52 or 51 or something like that, I talked about how I developed a new method of organizing my monsters. I wrote down all of my dungeon teams and all of the monsters I used on them, along with like TOA and TOA Hard. So I wrote down GB10, DB10, Necro B10. I don't have a Necro team right now, so I left that one blank, but I wanted to write it down to remind myself that eventually I will have a Necro team. Then I wrote down TOA Normal, TOA Hard. TOA Normal, I'm using Galleon plus damage dealers like Lushens. And then TOA Hard, I can use that same team pretty high up. Well, not pretty high up, but I think into the 50s it is now, maybe 40s. And then I switch over to my safer team, and I wrote down my R5 teams, and I think that was about it. I also wrote down my arena offenses, my arena defense, and some of my Guild Wars teams. That way I know what monsters I need to rune. After that, I wrote a tier list for myself of monsters that I need to have my best runes on. Bernard, for example, he needs my fastest runes, no exceptions, so he was on the S tier. Then I wrote down Lushens, and then I was glancing back up at my first list that I wrote down of all of my teams to remind myself which monsters I had to categorize. Whoops, sorry. So I came up with my tier list, runed everything. That was kind of the new method. So this month I tried to be really organizational and sort of efficient with my monsters, and everything went pretty well. So any monsters that I don't need to rune, I didn't. So that's that. I still have a heavy focus on my arena offense and arena defense because I'm still trying to get Guardian 1 again. And that's about it. I also worked on my Dragons team. That's a new thing that I worked on. I runed up my R5 monsters a little bit better, so my runs should be slightly more stable than they were before, but sometimes I still do wipe, and I think those were my main focuses. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Here we go. The first monster is Megan. Her build stayed the same from last month, but her stats got slightly worse because I had to give some of her runes away to other monsters. I believe I gave one of her will runes to one of my Lushens. I'm not quite sure, but I know that she got slightly worse, which kind of sucks, but the way that I'm using her, she doesn't need to have great runes to work okay. I have her with 85% accuracy as always for PvP, so she's capped against arenas in Arena, so she can put her toad poison on them. And then I built her pretty fast. I always like to have her speed tuned with Bernard, so if my Bernard moves, Megan will move, and I've been trying to push her speed a bit more, because sometimes I use her as the only attack bar booster in Guild Wars with Megan, Lushen, and then either Lagmaron, Theomars, or I've been using Hua a little bit on that Guild Wars offense too. But her speed dropped along with her HP because I had to give some runes away. So she's pretty much the same will set for Leos, so they can't push her back in Arena. So that is Megan. My Sig is deruned, so I'm not going to show him. I'm not sure. I keep forgetting what boss is for TOA Hard right now. But if it was Lyrith this month, I think it was, I did use him for her, but I put my Theomars' runes on him for that, just because my Theomars has somewhat tanky runes, and he has runes that do a lot of damage, and runes that are also fast, and I like the Violent on Sig for Lyrith because I don't have any skill ups on him. Even with skill ups, Violent would be fine, so yeah, that's Sig. Here is my Theo. He comes very high in the rune order. He gets first choice for my best violent runes, but he's behind my Lushens for any broken sets or anything like that, because I think my Lushens are on quite a few broken sets. I believe the way I runed my monsters were I did my Lushens first, then Theo, then Lagmaron, and after that, Tark, Hua, and then Shaolin, and those are all my damage dealers. So I'm pretty sure that's how it all went down. Theomars has always been one of my staple monsters, so I always like to give him really good runes. I'm comfortable with giving him... I actually like to give him higher crit rate with multi-hitters and Lagmaron. I've mostly been comfortable with 80%. I don't like going any lower than that, but with Theomars I like to go a little bit higher, mainly because you're kind of relying on this one to crit when you hit it on things, so that's just like my personal preference with it. That's like my personal comfort zone. So yeah, I looked for builds for him that did a lot of damage, and then I also looked for builds that were kind of tanky as well, because you also want to start pushing those tanky stats with Theomars, because often you'll use him with bruiser teams against other bruiser teams, and it helps if he can survive a little bit. So that's my Theo. Here is my Galleon. His build stayed the exact same from last month too. Violent, and after I runed up all of my attackers, I runed up Galleon to make sure that he moves before them, especially with the 24% speed lead, because a lot of times I use my Galleon Lagmaron Bernard, Galleon Theomars Bernard team in Guild Wars, so you gotta have that speed tuning. I also have 85% accuracy on him for PvP. And then after that, I've been liking the tanky Galleon build. My Galleon he's not that tanky, but I looked for builds that were kind of tanky because I like how he's been working that way in Guild Wars, and then he's been doing fine in Dragons. My new Dragons team is going to be super awesome because I believe it has a 100% success rate, or 99 point something. It hasn't failed yet, and I've been running it for about 3 days now. I've done a lot of refills with it, so yeah, check him out on that team. Next monster, a new monster, the Water Homunculus. I finally upgraded the last skill today. I was still kind of debating which one I wanted to go with, and I finally made up my mind, and I runed him up today as well. The rune orders or the way I runed up my monsters is kind of confusing a little bit, so let me pull up my little notepad thing because I had to write it out for myself, and I also put Devilmon on him today as well. I figure I'll probably be using him for a while. I'll probably be using him in TOA Hard a lot, and then eventually on a Cleave team, because I don't think I'm going to be pulling any good Cleave monsters anytime soon, like Alicia or Zyros, so I think it's fine to Devilmon him. Okay, let me pull up my little notepad. Today, actually, I went back and beat Artemiel a couple times. I beat him at least twice. I'm not sure if I tried a third time or if I succeeded a third time, but I beat him twice in a row with the Water Homunculus, and this is just my Wi-Fi, and now I'm stuck. Okay, so I re-runed things to beat Artemiel, and I'm pretty sure I'll be doing a video on it just to have it out there, because the Water Homunculus team seemed a lot more reliable than the other team that I was using. I did beat it twice in a row with the Water Homunculus, and I think I'll be trying a third time to get like a really clean edit, because the first one was kind of close, and Artemiel actually didn't heal himself when he had it up, so I wanted to do it again just to make sure that it wasn't a fluke or anything. Okay, let me go back to the Homunculus and talk about the rune order. For Artemiel specifically, and in general for TOA Hard, I think it's most important to have your slower move first, just based on how attack bar works. You want to get that slow out immediately. I will have the speed tuning guide for you guys down below. It doesn't just have to do with speed tuning. It explains how monsters take turns, basically. When a fight starts, every monster's attack bar is going to tick up it's a value based on their overall speed, so that's kind of important. So I think it's important to get your slow out immediately so you're reducing their tick size as soon as possible. So the way I runed my monsters, I runed Aria and Spectra. Well, I actually runed Aria first, so I gave her my best Despair runes, like the fastest build. After that, I runed up the Homunculus because I did take the Frostwind skill where he freezes. So if you're visualizing this in your mind, I also used Spectra with that team. I didn't use Aria for my Artemis attempts that I did earlier because I don't know how many people are going to have Aria because she was a Hall of Heroes a while ago. She might actually come back soon for the birthday Hall of Heroes that Come To Us will be doing. So Aria and Spectra move first. After that, I runed up my Homunculus to make him slower because they all want the same runes. Despair Revenge, my Aria's on Despair Revenge. So Aria / Spectra, but my Spectra's on Violent actually. Then Homunculus moves, then Baretta, and Beretta's also on Despair, but I don't have Baretta on Revenge. So I wanted to make sure that that turn order was there, that my slower moves first, followed by the Homunculus, because he has the most reliable CC out of any monster, even Veramos. This one is the most reliable, so I think it's just important to have him move after you're slower. So that's how I runed up the Homunculus, and then keep a lookout for the Artemis video. I will have to record again, but my Wi-Fi is so bad, so I have to go like stand over there to do it. It's pretty annoying. I'll have to figure out if I can extend my Wi-Fi better. So I think I showed you guys all these runes already, but I'm talking and forgetting if I did that. So yeah, okay, so that's the Homunculus, and then make sure you are remembering what skill path I took. The reason I went for this one, the AoE freeze over the dots, is because I have a Thrain, and this skill actually generates more dots than Thrain does. It puts 2 on the enemy, and then it can put even more. And when I've used my Thrain, the dots stack up super fast, and it gets really dangerous because enemies can only have 10 debuffs on them at once, so I'm most likely going to be using this Homunculus on my auto team in place of Vero. I think he might provide more CC than my Vero does. And with auto, even with manual, using Thrain can kind of get sketchy at times because the enemies have so many debuffs and there's no room to stun them. So I went with this one. I'll have to experiment with it more. TOA's resetting tonight actually in, I think, like a couple hours, maybe like 5 hours or something, just estimating. So I'll test this out and let you guys know like my thoughts if you keep watching my videos. But he worked really well for Artemis. I can't picture using this one for Artemis. I think the freeze is more reliable and better, but that's just kind of my opinion. So yeah, the team that I was using, maybe I can pull it up here. Yeah, I can. Okay, so the lag quit lagging. I was using this. You might be able to use Veramos instead of Baretta if you take the dot skill, but I can't really see how you can take the dot skill if you're using easy to obtain monsters like these. I just think you need that CC on this team. I think all of these slots are very efficient. Bella's pretty efficient because she's a healer. Baretta is just Baretta, so many dots, and the attack bar reset. I think you need a slower for most of TOA Hard, either Aria or Spectra, unless you're using like a Reser, like Briand or something. But I've always found that having a slow debuff on the enemies is super helpful, and I don't really like running without a slow debuff, but I'm sure other people out there do it. I've seen a few people mention teams that don't run slows, so yeah, I'm also going to link you guys a TOA and TOA Hard guide down below by Reefy. It's very, very extensive if you want to give it a read over to kind of understand TOA and TOA Hard. So, okay, now we're done with the Homunculus. Next is Julie. She's unruined, but she's out here. I will show you guys my skill ups on her. I think she's fully skilled. So yeah, that's Julie. I believe she will be one of my monsters on my Cleave team. Galleon and then either like Soha or Aquila. I'm pretty sure I'll be using Soha because Soha is already 6-starred, and Soha does like quite a bit of damage when she cleanses, and I don't think Aquila has a good multiplier when Aquila, or not seizes, but strips. So, and then if the other team doesn't have any buffs, you can always not bring a buff stripper. So you can just do Galleon 3 damage dealers, Galleon 2 damage dealers, Huadam, Galleon 2 damage dealers, Ganymede. I have Huadam and Ganymede, or just 3 damage dealers. So my options for Cleave teams for damage dealers, I was thinking, are most likely Julie, Amir, Lagmaron, and Fire Homunculus. I think the Fire Homunculus just rounds things out better, and I think he might do more damage compared to the water one. I'm not really sure. I haven't looked into seeing is the fire, like, how viable the fire and water homunculus are for Cleave teams, but I think the water one, actually, I think people do use him, especially because of his freeze skill. So, yeah, but I was planning on fire. I'll have to look into it more before I make my decision, and I don't know if I'll even be building a Cleave team anytime soon, but it's kind of on my mind because I do see quite a few defenses in Arena that can be cleaved pretty easily. So next monster is my Shaolin. She is, I think she got a little bit beefier because she's one of my damage dealers for R5, and I was using her for some of those Rift Beasts to farm up skill ups for my Homunculus. And recently I did put Devilmon on her because I figured, why not? I don't have any Nat 5s to put them on, except my Homunculus, but I put those on her before I farmed the skill ups for my Homunculus, just to kind of help out with that extra damage and stuff. I'm aware that the Wind Kung Fu Girl is fusible, but I'm kind of lazy, and I don't know. I think I used one Wind Kung Fu Girl on her, but I don't have any Wind Charger Sharks to do that, and I think the only way you can get those is by summoning. I can't quite remember. I'll have to look into it again, because I'll probably have to fuse the other two just to kind of, you know, help out and not fully use Devilmon on her because it is kind of a waste. Okay, next monster, we're in lag mode here, so I might have to slow down, is Rina. She has some of my best runes on her. She is my best runed tank. So I'm very proud of how she looks. I just have to double check to make sure that you guys can see all these runes because this goddamn Wi-Fi. I summoned a random Rina last week and it went into her heal. Once her heal is fully skilled, I might start working on my other Rina actually. I think that's probably the best option. In my last episode of Path of Decency, episode 53, I talked about how I was thinking about building a double Rina defense. It can be beaten pretty easily by double Lushen as long as they take a bit of time out to double amputation magic you. They'll have to wait for their cooldowns again. So that's what worried me, but the reason I was wanting to build it is because I know it takes a bit of time to clear, time that people might not necessarily take out. If they know it's going to take them 2 or 3 minutes, most people can't really spare that during rush hour, and they need to be doing like at least like 1 or 2 successful offenses per minute if they're hoping to hold better ranks or higher ranks or whatever. This past weekend, I actually used my mummies, and we'll talk about those when we get to them, and I can explain my reasoning. Basically, I built my mummies much tankier than I had before, and I think that was a good trade-off between using squishy mummies or building Rinas. So, and I will also show you guys how they did during last week's rush too. Okay, next monster is Tark. I used him to farm Homunculus skill ups. He's also on my DB10 team, and I think that's about it. Overall, Tark is super useful. I kind of thought that he was just one of those monsters that people built eventually when they just had leftover runes and stuff, but this dude is actually OP. Like, I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna need him if you're looking to farm the Homunculus or DB10 or anything like that. So I already listed off my damage dealers earlier. I runed up both my Lushens first, then Theomars, then Lagmaron, then Tark, then Hua and Shaolin, and that's about all my damage dealers. So I'll show you guys my Homunculus teams. I farmed the water one, so here we go right here with Tark. He's so helpful on these. Again, Tark, he just gives really good results. And Tark again. And I will show you guys my DB10 team. That run I'll show you guys a little bit later on. Please, Wi-Fi, this video is going to be much more painful than it needed to be because of this. I'm stuck. I can't get out. I'm stuck, guys. Okay, there we go. So, next monster is my Miyang. She's my current healer for my R5 team. My R5 team isn't super stable, but I think it's a little bit more stable than last month because I did beef up my Colleen and Lisa, and I gave them more defense because I was noticing that they were dying. And on the Rift Beasts, they would barely die, and they could have survived if they had more defense. So I did increase their stats. And then Miyang, I had to give some of her runes away, so I recall re-runing her. I'm not too happy with how she looks, but she's functioning just fine for how I'm using her. I hope you guys saw everything. Let me go over it again in case it was lagging, but I think you guys saw everything. I hope so. I'm sorry, this video's like, god damn, am I gonna have to redo this whole thing? I'm not gonna redo it, but I'll have to fix that sometime soon. Baretta, here we go. I went over the rune order earlier because I did incorporate my Homunculus into my TOA Hard team. So I did a little bit of re-runing just to make sure the turn order was how I wanted it to be. With my slower moving first, meaning Aria or Spectra, I don't use them on the same team. I use Aria when I'm like struggling or on my auto team, but when I'm doing videos for you guys, my runes have gotten pretty good over time, so I'm able to use Spectra instead of her. Spectra is still pretty strong, but Aria has the AoE glance and the sleep, the on-target sleep that fills up her attack bar if she lands it. So of course, I think she's much stronger. They kind of have different purposes. Spectra, I absolutely need to use on Lyrith and Athtaros as well, because he just provides so much more damage. So they're fairly similar, but I'd say Spectra's maybe a little bit weaker. But you guys know he does provide a lot of stuff that she doesn't. So my slower moves first, either Aria or Spectra. Next, I wanted my Homunculus moving because I took the AoE freeze skill, and it's very reliable. It's a 100% activation rate unless it gets resisted. And then if he glances, it also doesn't activate. So then Homunculus moves because he's the most reliable. After that, I have either Baretta or Vero moving. I think Beretta's moving after Vero now because I had to give some runes over to the Homunculus because he's also, I runed him up Despair, Revenge, mainly Despair because Beretta's on Despair as well. And then after that, I have like Bella and Mav moving last. So that's him. I think I showed these to you guys. I'm forgetting because my mind is everywhere and the Wi-Fi is messing with me. Yeah, I think I did. So yeah, that's Baretta. I'm not sure if he got worse. He did get a lot slower. I think he had like plus 105 speed or something, somewhere around there. So he got slower, but I think his tankiness stayed about the same. 45% accuracy for TOA Hard because that's the hard cap. Any more doesn't matter. It doesn't help you at all. Next monster is Colleen. She's on my R5 team, and I used her in a lot of those raid beasts that I just showed you guys. I made her tankier, mainly with more defense, because I was noticing in R5 that would have helped her. And when I was farming those raids, the Rift Beast things, sometimes she would barely die, and if she had a little bit more HP or a little bit more defense, she would have survived. So she was one of the monsters that I looked at improving. Unfortunately, her accuracy is like 0, but 15%, 1-5, is the cap for R5. So maybe I should have looked at getting her there, because it's really important to land the attack debuff. And then I have her with high resist for raids. After that, I just made her fast and tanky. Fast so she can heal a lot, and then tanky so she survives. So she's just a pretty standard Colleen. Next is my Spectra. I runed him today, actually, and I ruined him after everything else. I made sure that he moved before my TOA Hard monsters, because earlier I talked about how I think it's really important to get your slow out as soon as possible to be your first moving monster, just because of how attack bar works in Summoner's War. You want to get that out so the enemies have smaller tick sizes afterwards, because if your Spectre's moving later on in the turn order, the enemies got more ticks when your other monsters moved before you got your slow on them. So for him, 45% accuracy for TOA Hard and TOA, and then fast and tanky. In the past, I have built him with a damage build, but I think it's best to go with a support build first until you're confident that you can move on to that damage build. Today, I actually used him to beat Artemil, and I will be releasing a new video with the water homunculus today, and I also used him earlier to beat Artemil without the water homunculus. And I think the tank build is the way to go for that. It's just so much safer, so do that unless you're really confident that you can build him on a damage build and also make him tanky as well. Because most of the time, if you're building him on a damage build, you can't just go full damage. He has to be able to survive a little bit too, because he still will be taking hits, and it's hard to make a monster tanky and do damage, so I always just go with the tankiness. Next monster is Velajuel. I was using him on my midweek AD, so I gave him pretty good runes. He's actually on my DB10 team, and he is the magic ingredient to make it 100% rather than like 96% or whatever it was before. I tracked about 500 runs or so, and I got a 97% success rate, but then with like one fail coming in there, it dropped down to 96% success rate. But I think my team right now has a 100% success rate. Some of the runs get really close there, so it might not be 100%, but I've done refills after refill, and the team hasn't failed yet. So I made him tanky enough to survive an amputation magic from a Lushen. Mainly I just focused a lot of HP on him, because I hope that I don't lag because of this. This actually is the defense that I was using last week, and I used it before. I think it gets better results than my other one with Bernard and Theomars. I have data though. I don't know what happened with my data, but it was showing that that defense got the same results as this one. Let me put the other one back up, because maybe I just had incorrect numbers, but let me show you guys. So right now I should be Guardian 1. Oh gosh. Okay, well, I was Guardian 1 before I started recording this video. I just barely got it, and that's really never happened before with the other defense. Maybe it has, but I feel like this one's giving me better results, and it's allowing me to kind of be up higher midweek. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to wait. This Wi-Fi, oh my gosh. Come on now. Okay, I had to go stand in the corner of my room to get it to work, but then it actually wouldn't work, so I had to disconnect from the Wi-Fi and use LTE for it to load. So here are my current stats. It's actually not getting hit that much. That's what I was kind of figuring, that people don't really want to dick around with Fria midweek, and they just want to have fast clears. So yeah, I think it's definitely is allowing me to be higher than I was with the other team, the one that I showed you. Okay, let's get out of here, and then let's go back to my monsters. So that was Velajuel, and I use him a lot in Guild Wars too, and he does fairly well, even though he has kind of low defense. And I do make him faster than Chasun and Theomars and Vero to cleanse them if they get stunned and stuff like that. And I like to make Vero faster than Theo, because sometimes Theo might have an attack break or defense break or something like that. Mainly the attack break. So yeah, he's speed tuned to move faster than them. Next is my Verd. I changed him over to a damage dealer Verd, I think last month maybe, or yeah, pretty sure it was last month. for my other YOLO DB10 team that I was using with Megan, and he's been working out just fine on this build. It might be helping, actually. I'm not sure how I would do if I had him tanky Verd for my current Dragons team, but I do have a new one with Velajuel, so he's been just working just fine like this. I'm not too proud of his stats, but, you know, it's kind of whatever. I think my speed tuning is a little bit messed up too. I think Verd moves before Tark, which is kind of okay. Wait, there was a reason why it was kind of okay, but I think generally you want Verd moving last. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's Verd. Next is Fria. I changed her last week when I changed my mummies, and I beefed her up a lot. In my Path of Decency episode 53, I talked about how if you're using double Rena, you want to make sure that Fria can survive an amputation magic, meaning that you want her to be fairly tanky, because your Renas can tank out 2 amputations, so the first amp's gonna come in, everything's gonna survive. The second amp's gonna come in and kill Fria, but it's not gonna kill your Renas. Fria's gonna die and heal the Renas up to full. So since I was using her with tank mummies, I was guessing that the mummies should be able to survive any AoE that comes in time for Fria to die, sort of. I don't know how it works against teams who land their strips on me, like Tiana teams. I don't know if Fria will die appropriately. I'm guessing that she will based on her current HP and defense. I'm guessing my mummies probably won't be able to survive like a Zyros and something else. And I think Fria should die on that first monster's AoE, but against Julies and Lushens, if someone's using Julie double Lushen, I think my team should be fine. So I think Fria, even if the person 1,000 cards first, trying to kill Fria, I think she'll be able to survive, and then they'll have to amputation me. I don't think they can just like single card her or whatever. So I made her tankier, and I think she worked out better. I'm going to show you guys my rush hour stats for the last 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, showing you how my defense did. They only took 1 hit within the last 7 minutes, which I think is good, but they got hit about one time per minute leading up to that. I think from like minute 20 or like minute 17 or 15, they got hit once per minute up to minute 7. And then they only got hit once in the last 7 minutes. So I think that's good enough for me to get Guardian 1 again, as long as I keep up with those hits, and then I'll have to really do well in the last 7 minutes and kind of get my rank back up there and make up for it. So I think I should be good there. That's Fria. I like her like this. With the other team that I showed you, Veramos, Velajuel, Ratesh, Fria, ideally, you want her to die on the first amputation magic because the rest of the team cannot survive 2. So the first comes in, if your Fria's still alive, the second Lushen's just going to move and kill everything. Everything's going to be dead, Fria's going to be dead, and there's nothing to heal. But I kept her this way because I didn't feel like making her squishy for midweek, and I think she's working out fine. I think people just don't like hitting that defense, and it's still doing well. So that is Fria. Here's my Hua. I talked about the order that I ruined my monsters before. So I did my 2 Lushens, Theomars, Lagmaron, and then Hua, then Shaolin. I'm only using her for R5 right now, and then I also used her for the Rift Beasts, but I'm not going to be farming them anymore. So I made sure that I made her kind of tanky for R5 because I was noticing that she was dying. So with a monster like Hua, most people suggest, again, like Spectra, if you can't make her do damage and tank enough, you gotta cut down on the damage and make sure she can tank in the first place. So that's kind of what I did. I backed off of the damage a little bit and tried to make her a little bit more tanky, but I think her stats are still kind of on the low end for damage dealers, so she does kind of die sometimes in R5, but she did get better. Next monster is Lisa. Earlier I kind of talked about how I made Lisa and Colleen tankier because They can use that for R5 and also for the Rift Beasts. Sometimes they were just barely dying and they could have survived if they had some more defense or HP, so I improved her slightly from last month. Here is Tessarian. I actually did rune him up, but I don't like this build at all, so I'm not going to show you guys. I pulled him out here and runed him just to kind of see what builds I had going on. I was doing some research on Reddit, reading up on damage Tessarian versus tank Tessarian, and some people, like someone said, hybrid Tessarian really isn't that good because you need him to be kind of doing like one thing or the other, and generally it's better to have him as a damage dealer. So I think I used him once, but then never again because he's really squishy, and if anything focuses him, he pretty much just dies. He's like a leaf in the wind. But yeah, I just had him out here to remind myself that I should probably build this guy for Guild Wars because he's really useful. Next is my Bulldozer. I'm not really sure what happened to him. I think he stayed the same. Yeah, I don't think I touched Copper or Bulldozer because I was happy with where they were and I was worried about other things. So he's on Will because you need that for his third skill, so he doesn't get stunned. It's just helpful. And he's just a standard Bulldozer, so that's him. Here is my Fire Panda, Shangfei, if I said that right. I still use him on my safe R5 team. I find that when I'm running with other people who don't have 2 damage dealers, it's better for me to go with my safe team just because it's more sustainable. The Fire Panda brings extra heals, and my team has more debuffs with the Fire Panda. Usually I take out the Fire Panda and add in Shaolin for my YOLO R5 team, so I still have him ruined up for that. And I can't remember if he was on one of my Rift Beast teams. We'll have to check that out. I'm probably going to have to record my runs separately and then do a commentary over them or something. But yeah, so that's the Panda. R5 is the main place that I use him. Next is Chloe. I'm not going to show you guys her runes because I just had her on some sort of temporary build to mess around, but I had her out here again because I know she's an option to use with various ADs, and I know she can, like, work in some situations, so I was thinking about using her double Rena Fria. So that's kind of why I had her out here, just to remind myself you can use her if you figure out kind of a creative way to use her. And I also don't fully understand how people use her on AD, so I'll have to figure that out one day, but I know some people do, and they have success with her. So yeah, that's Chloe. My fire mummies, I'm actually going to have to pull up the optimizer to show you guys what I have them on because I've been moving runes around. So let me show you. Let me find it. Okay, here we are. So these are the builds that I technically have them on, but I'm going to put these runes on them for rush hour and then take them back off. So here's the first mummy, here's the second mummy, and then Fria, I think she already had this stuff on her, or did she? Maybe I just put a slot 2 on her, and I put these, I don't know what Fria was doing actually. I think this is Fria's legit build though. So whatever I showed you guys earlier, that is not Fria's legit build. Okay, so those are my mummies. Let's get back here. Okay. Let me show you their skill ups. They are both fully skilled. We did have a wind mummy secret dungeon. As you guys can see by the optimizer thing that I showed you, they're both extremely tanky. I figured that was a good sort of compromise between running double Renas, where you just want them to be super tanky, and I still don't fully know how the mummies work. I just figured the tankier they are, the more damage they can take, thus the more damage they can deal back because of how this skill works. So I figured making them tankier is probably the best thing to do if you can, but Too Lazy to Die always makes his kind of squishy, so that was kind of confusing. So I just decided to test out the tank build this weekend, and then I made sure that Fria would survive a single amputation and that she was like pretty tanky because I think my mummies can tank out like most things pretty well. So that was that for the mummies. I put them on will just to kind of mess with people if they don't bring a stripper, or if they do, they might fail to strip me. So yeah, that's the mummies. Next is Shannon. I'm not going to show you guys her runes because she's been donating to things. I haven't used her recently. Actually, last month I think I had to use her for the Acroma floor, and it went very smoothly. I just gave her some garbage runes and she worked out because they don't focus her or anything. So I use her for the Acroma Zyros floor for her defense break to help my Veramos tank. And I also took Veramos off of Violence and put him on HP defense, or a variation of that, 2 HP runes, 1 defense rune. And that went fairly well, or it did go well because I beat it in the first try. Ramagos is out here because if there's ever a Guild Wars match that I can use him for, I put my Reno's runes on him, and I think that's just the best way to go about it. It does kind of suck because you guys are probably like, how do you have that much mana to do everything? Well, right now I don't have that much at all, but because I just did so much reruning for TOA today because I wanted to do Artemeal again with the water homunculus to see if it was possible. But generally moving 6 runes around isn't that big of a deal, and I think it's fine. I just get my mana by farming dungeons a lot, and I need to craft a lot of runes. If we look over here, why did I do this? Now we're just going to be stuck. I'm pretty sure I have about 60 violent runes to craft, so I'll have to save up mana for that and then do that sometime. That's kind of in my mind as something that I need to do. Okay, next monster is Copper. Like I said with Bulldozer, I don't think I messed with him at all because I was busy with other stuff. I don't even know if I have any upgrades for him to make him do more damage. So I think he did stay the same, and I'm pretty sure that was my reasoning because I'm just comfortable with where he is. Upgrading the Guild Wars buildings has been really big to increase my Copper's damage. His damage has gone up quite a bit ever since I started buying those Guild Wars buildings. Guild War buildings. I'm going to show you guys those later, but I don't want to click off right now because I'll get stuck again. Here's my Bernard. He's been the exact same for a long time now, and yeah, so it's just Bernard. Same thing, no upgrades or anything like that for him. I make him as fast as I can, so this is my fastest build. There are a couple variations of it, and I picked the one with the highest tanky stats, like HP and defense. And he also has pretty good accuracy for arenas and stuff like that, with high resist for arena. And I find he works best just building him tanky for AO, Bernard, Double Lushen, Megan. Next is my Mav. I runed him today for Artemeal, and his stats are like terrible, but he worked out just fine. Well, he didn't actually work out just fine. I was noticing that he was having some issues surviving, but I was able to pass anyways, so yeah. I'm most likely not going to use him on my TOA Hard auto team because he's too squishy, and I've been having good success with Baretta, Vero, Aria, Brienne, Chasun. I think that was my team, but this month I'm going to try out the water homunculus instead of Vero. And I did, because I think the water homunculus should be able to provide more CC than Vero does, and I think it should be better. Next monster is my Shimate. I actually lied earlier. Shimate is in my rune order for my damage dealers, but he's just very low on the list, so I think he just got runed up after everything else got runed. It would be nice to put him on Despair, but I didn't because I wanted to have him do some damage while maintaining speed tuning to move before my Lushen does. So I use one team for offense. It is Shimate, Bernard, Megan, Lushen. And Bernard moves, Megan moves, then Shimate moves, and I usually AoE to soften things up, and then my Lushen comes in and kills everything. So I think it's important to have some damage on Shimate to do that. So that's him. Next monster is Lagmaron. He gets runed up fairly early with my other damage dealers, both of my Lushens, then Theomars, then Lagmaron, because I rely on him a lot for Guild Wars, so I kind of need to put runes on him or else it gimps my Guild Wars potential and I don't do as well. So that's him. I've always been pretty comfortable with 80% crit rate on him, no lower, so that's what I have him at. So yeah, lag. Here is Chasun. I believe I runed her up after Bella because for some reason this was the reason actually. I runed up Bella because I wanted to kind of mess around with her with Cleave teams for AO because one of my guildmates, Denbo, told me that he was using bruiser teams for AO. But Chasun, I think, is kind of the same. I have her faster than Theomars in case I have to use her with Theo in Guild Wars. So she can Fallen Blossoms and fill her attack bar to full. And she will be on my TOA Hard auto team this month. I think she's kind of the same as she's been, so I'm not really too afraid that she'll perform bad or anything, because my other monsters can kind of make up for it with how much CC they have, but it would be nicer to have her stats better because I think she's kind of looking kind of bad, but that's okay. Next monster is Brienne. I also stopped using her on my R5 team because I started using Miang, and with Miang, her build's kind of weird. Like, I have her on a bunch of broken sets, I think, so that's kind of nice that I can just have a broken set monster rather than relying on Chasun because she's kind of far down in the rune order for violent runes because a lot of monsters want the exact same thing as she does. Velajuel, Veramos, and then there's some others, like Ritesh kind of takes some. Brienne I re-runed today to give runes over to the other stuff, but I will re-rune him tonight before TOA resets. Or actually, I'll rerun him, probably tonight, because I'll do TOA normal first, and then when I do TOA hard, I'll put some runes on him. I'm pretty sure I'll do Despair Revenge, and then just look for the tankiest stats I can get, and not really worry about his HP or anything. I might be able to get away without using him for TOA hard. I might be able to do something like Baretta, Water Homunculus, Chasun, Vero, Aria. I don't really want to use Mav because he's too squishy. I might be able to use Bella, and then Ganymede, I don't even have runes, so I can't really use that. So, I'm sure you guys are like typing in the comments, just use Ganymede, he's OP or whatever. But the thing is, I want to be efficient with my monsters and use things that I already have ruined up for other purposes, because Ganymede I'm pretty sure I would only use for TOA hard and pretty much nothing else, because there's like reasons for it. I haven't thought of good teams with him. He works really well with Tiana, like Tiana Ganymede plus 2 damage dealers, or Tiana Ganymede Galleon damage dealer for an AO, but I don't have Tiana. So I haven't really found a way to make him useful in multiple places on one single rune build, so that's kind of why I don't want to use him. And my other monsters, I don't know, I feel like they just bring more than he does, so we'll have to see whatever I come up with for TOA hard tonight. But I know that I'll have to look at my core monsters, because for my core, I always like to use Baretta, Aria, Chasun. Chasun's runes might be kind of weird, and I've used Vero before. I know Vero has good runes because I have him runed for other things, so I know that I have 4 good monsters that I can use, and then I can try the Homunculus in there because he has really good runes, or I can look at Brienne as well. So we'll see how that goes. Next is my Lushen that moves second. He does a lot of damage. His crit rate's pretty good too, which I'm happy about. I have him on Will for things like Light Panda, Dark Horus, and there were some other things. I forgot the list though. I forgot it earlier, but there were a couple other monsters that can cut in, and it's nice to have him on Will for that. So that's him. I don't know how much damage he's doing per card. I think it's like 9.5k maybe. Can't quite recall. You guys can check my most recent Rush Hour video if you want to find out. It's called Baby Lushen plus Big D Lushen. This is the Big D Lushen, Big Damage Lushen, if you guys want to see how much damage he's doing. Okay, next is Ritesh. I did improve him finally. For a while, he's been looking really bad. But when I was going through my list and writing out all my monsters, I made sure to give him a little bit of love. So he's not looking spectacular, but it's much better than he was before. And that just kind of happened because I rely on him somewhat, but other monsters kind of need more stats than he does. So I had to rune them up first. Like, him and Velajuel, I rely on about the same, but Velajuel needs to be super fast, so I have to give Velajuel priority over him. Even though it's nice to make him do more damage and stuff, I have to get that speed on Velajuel. So there's some cases like that where other monsters take runes from him, but I think I put him in front of some others when I usually wouldn't. I think I runed him up before Chasun. So I moved him slightly up in the order. I don't remember how I did it, but he did get better, so I'm happy about that. So that's Ritesh. Here's Amesity. He's been getting worse along with Megan, and one of my other monsters has kind of been getting worse because he had to donate a rune or two to something else, and he's pretty squishy now. I've been noticing that in Guild Wars. Oftentimes he gets very low. Oh, we're lagging. Hold on. Let me do this again because I don't know if you guys saw all of these. I think you saw all of the runes, but not the skill ups. So sometimes he'll die and stuff, which kind of sucks. But that's just how it is because I had other things in front of him. He's been doing fine though, I think. Sometimes he'll die and then I just have to use other Guild Wars teams. Here is my Lushen that moves first, and I purposely made him do very little damage because there's so many Nemesis healers out there, or Nemesis monsters. The most common ones, Ariel, Praha, Baretta, the Dark Mermaid, and sometimes people have monsters on Nemesis like Triton, but someone had a Triton defense, and Triton was the only one on Nemesis, so it's like, okay, you stripped me, but what is your team doing? Like, they didn't even heal or anything. So I purposely made him do very small damage so he doesn't trigger that Nemesis. That way, nothing cuts in between my team. And the team's been working out fairly well. Claytano actually did the same thing when he was getting Rush Hour with no Nat 5s, or getting Guardian 1 with no Nat 5s. He made his Lushens do about the same damage as mine. So yeah, I still haven't gotten Guardian 1 again, but I'm still trying. Last week my offenses sucked. I took fights that I shouldn't, and I was generally an idiot. But I'm working on it, and I'm learning new things every week, and I think this is the correct build to keep them with the first one doing small damage and the second one doing a lot. Because not many Nemesis monsters cut in between me. Some do. I would say maybe 5% of the time a Nemesis monster will cut in, but most of the time not. So yeah, that's Lushen. Ganymede is unruned. He is fully skilled, so I will show you guys. One day I'm sure I'll use him, but this month is not the month because, like I was saying earlier, I just can't figure out how to use him in multiple places with one rune build. I'm aware that you can use him like in Guild Wars and stuff, but there's will runes, but that's probably not an excuse because I use Lagmaron quite a bit and there's a ton of will runes and that really messes me up. So yeah, one day I'll put effort into figuring out how to use him. It would be nice if I had Tiana because that's just a super obvious decision. Tiana, Ganymede, Galleon, +1. Egg timer's going off and it's super bright. Next monster's Darien. I use him in my R5 frontline for both my save team and my YOLO team. We're kind of lagging here, so I gotta make sure that all these runes show up for you guys. And it looks like we're frozen. Okay, we're back. So, Darien's always been really solid for R5, and he helps my team survive because I just can't quite get the stats without him to survive. So yeah, that's Darien. Next monster is Bella. I re-runed her today to use with my Artemil team. And I have her moving right before Mab. So basically everything moves and it takes damage and stuff, and then she heals up. I've always found that to work out pretty well, where Bella moves like second to last or whatever. So yeah, that's Bella. I hope you guys saw everything. Next monster is Aria. Hold on, let me do that again because I wasn't paying attention. And you might have missed something. She's fully skilled. Okay, next monster is Aria. I made her faster so she moves first. Before, I didn't have her moving first. For the longest time, I had her moving like second to last. I started out with a HP defense HP, or a variation of that. 2 HP runes, 1 defense rune on her when I started to push up higher in TOA Hard, when I was like seriously trying to clear it, or like push up into the 80s and stuff, because that's when I was seriously trying to clear it. And she worked fine that way, moving kind of last. And I've been using her like that. How long have I been clearing TOA Hard? I think 10 months in a row I've beaten TOA Hard, and at this point I'm autoing most of it. So you can definitely use her that way, having her slow, not the first monster on your team. But for the Artemeal floor especially, I thought to myself, and in general, I thought to myself, with Spectra and with any slow, you kind of want them moving first to get that out immediately, so you slow down the enemies so they're not getting turns as fast. So that's what I did. I made her the fastest monster on my team, on my auto team, and on the Artemeal team that I used. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep her this way. So that is Aria, 45% accuracy for TOA Hard, tanky, and just built as a support, basically. Next monster's Vero. He's on my midweek AD, and I use him heavily in Guild Wars and in TOA Hard, but this month I'm going to take him out. So I need to have good runes on him. So that's how I built him, with good runes. He gets runed up fairly soon, or fairly early in the rune order that I do for my supports, because I rely on him heavily to perform. And I made sure to make him have enough HP to survive 1 amputation magic, and then Fria should be dying on that one, but like I said earlier, I didn't rune her up perfectly to make her squishy enough to do that this week, so this week might be kind of weird with her not dying when she should. But yeah, so Vero's build's pretty good. I tried to push the accuracy on him so he has good accuracy to stun things for PvP, and then I made him pretty fast and tanky. That's how I've always built him. Next is Tyron. He has runes on, so I guess I'll show them to you. I do believe he actually moves before my Lushen. I'm not 100% sure on that, but sometimes I do use Tyron, Bernard, Megan, Lushen for AO. Generally, I'll just use Shimate though, and with that team, Shimate is more reliable because he has the higher speed leader. So if I see something like Gemini who has a 19% leader, just like Tyron, I will still go with Shimate just to have that extra security and safety that I do get the first turn. You know, why risk it when you don't have to? So I really haven't been using Tyron that much, but I still have him out here because sometimes I do. Sometimes I take risks when there's a team like Sierra, Perna, like in some cases I might bring out Tyron for things, but generally I don't. Huadam is out here just like the other monsters, to remind myself that he's an option. One day I'll get around to him just like Ganymede, but I'm building so many tanky monsters, I just can't do that at the moment. Rena, Ramagos, both of my mummies, I made them very tanky. At that point, after Rena and my 2 mummies, I can't even rune up Ramagos. Like, he will die, and he won't do very well in Guild Wars. I tried that, and he didn't do well with the build that I gave him. So Huadam especially, there's coppers running amok. I can't build a Huadam when I have runes on other things. Like, I'm just being real with you guys. I do not think I can build Huadam at all. I can, but he's just gonna get coppered, and it's gonna suck. So why would I do that? So yeah, one day. Everything else here is just fodder, so let's go ahead and check out monster storage, and then we will check out my dungeon teams. I'm just gonna scroll through for you guys. Not much to talk about here. I have a lot of fodder ready for more 6 stars. Not sure what I'm gonna 6-star next. Oh, actually, I'm summoning for Orion this week, and Fuko's also in the rotation. I didn't mean to tap on Verd. So I might be building, if I get Orion, I'm probably going to 6-star him. And if I get Fuko, I might be able to look at building him for my Necro team. And I will have to think of a Necro team because I don't have one right now. I also have some water liches, as you guys saw, that I can build for Necro. Okay, so that's monster storage. Let's check out Glory Shop buildings. I'm gonna scroll through for you guys. We're almost done here. I've been saying that for a while. And I will be able to buy more scrolls, hopefully get some more Nat 5s, because I haven't gotten one in 8 months now, excluding the Transcendent scroll, because that one's kind of like fake and it doesn't count. Okay, let's go through guild shop buildings. As I said earlier with Copper and Bulldozer, I've noticed them both doing more damage. It's been noticeable ever since I started buying upgrades in these buildings. So that's a good thing. And then for guild shop, I always figure that, or not always, but the way I convince myself to buy guild shop stuff is that you actually get something from it. You know for a fact you're going to get a lot of stats if you put your guild points into these, but if you buy scrolls over here, you don't know if you're going to get a Nat 5. And I did the math on the odds for it, so I figured out how many points does it take to buy all of the guild shop buildings, and how many scrolls can I buy with those points. Then I did the math on what are the odds that I get 1 Nat 5, 2 Nat 5s, etc. The odds for 1 Nat 5 were, I think, like 68% or something like that. Can't quite remember what it was. And then for more than that, it's less, so like 2 Nat 5s, it's less than 68%. Maybe it was like 75%. So do I want to gamble that I get 1 Nat 5 with only a 75% chance? And there are a lot of Nat 5s out there that aren't that useful, or I could get a duplicate. So I just figure it's so much safer just to go for these stats, and they help out. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be playing this game for a long time, years. So I think these are the best choice. Okay, so we did all of that. Now let's head on over to dungeon teams. I'm probably going to have to step out and record these and do a commentary over them because, as you can see, we are completely frozen. I can't even touch on the screen. It's not doing anything. Can't even X out. Okay, so I will catch you guys. Oh, okay. I have to record this out there. I'll do a commentary. Okay, BRB. Okay, I reset my router modem combination, and I think we might have some stable runs here. And I don't have to go out in the hallway. Wonder what was doing that. Huh. Okay, well, here's my Giants team. It's the same from last month. Actually, I think I was using Lagmaron instead of Theomars. The Lagmaron team, I noticed, had some fails here and there. So I tried out Theo, and I was thinking maybe Theo's passive might help some runs succeed that wouldn't. Honestly, I don't watch it too closely because my runs are only like 1 minute long, which actually might make it pretty easy to watch because you can see a lot of runs quickly and see like what's going wrong and stuff. But I don't watch them. So I don't know what was causing the Lagmaron runs to fail because Lagmaron has the attack debuff, so I was thinking that would help lessen the Giant's damage. But yeah, like I don't even know how many runs get down to where the Giant kills my stuff, but this team, I don't believe it's failed so far yet. Run times are about the same, so in general it's pretty much the same team that I've been using for a while. Next is my, ooh, this is nice, this connection though, that was really strange. I restarted my phone too. I hope my phone doesn't have, like, malware or something. I have an iPhone. I don't know if it exists. It probably does. If I have some shady apps or something like that, like using up my camera and recording me or something and my microphone. I don't know. So this is my new prized possession for this month. Velajuel made this team 100% successful, or so far. They haven't failed yet for me. It has gotten really, really close with like Velajuel having no HP and him finishing the dragon off. So a fail might come sometime, but I'm not really sure if it will. I was using Megan previously instead of Velajuel, and that team only had a 96% success rate. I made a whole video on it, and then I decided against using that team because I wasn't too comfortable. After I did more runs, I wasn't really liking the 96-97% success rate, whatever it was. And I wanted to go back to a 100% success rate team. So one of my viewers actually told me about this team, so I have to thank him for mentioning this. When I pulled Velajuel in Path to Decency episode 2, it's been such a long time. I always have to reminisce. People were telling me that he was really, really good in Dragons B10, but I hadn't seen anyone using him recently, so I kind of forgot about it, and I don't think I've ever really seen anyone use him successfully. When I pulled him, I think YDCB was using him at that time. Someone told me that YDCB is still using him right now on his Dragons B10 team, but at that time, I wasn't really concerned with like speed runs or anything like that. So the average run time is about 1 minute and 30 seconds with this team, so I'm really happy with that. Necro, I don't have a team right now, so we can't watch that. And let's hop on over to R5 and see if we can find a party. Like I was saying earlier, if everyone else has kind of safe teams, it's best for me to go with a safe team. But if they have a bunch of damage dealers and stuff, I can go with my double damage dealer team. So it looks like both of these guys do have... we don't have a resist lead. In the last video, I accidentally left. Someone did have a resist lead. I don't think Delphoid does. I think she has like a wind thing. I left and we did have a resist lead if someone changed it. Okay, yeah, we do. Okay, cool. Let's see. Yeah, all these guys have a lot of damage dealers. So my... Oh, it's the same dude. Okay, so my reasoning, I think why this works, is because if someone's running 2 damage dealers, they probably have pretty good runes. And like right now, my team does die sometimes after the second jump. I haven't really ran that much R5 since I... gave better runes to my Lisa and Colleen and fixed them / improved them a little bit. So I don't know how my team's really doing, how often they wipe. I'm pretty sure they can still wipe after the 3rd jump. But I always just find it safer to run with my Fire Panda team. So my safe team is going to take out Shaolin and put the Fire Panda in the front line and run a 2-man front line. So yeah, Miang doesn't have skill ups. If she did, she'd probably be a bit better. People were telling me that it helps if you run Miang on Violent. I don't really want to do that because I already have so many other Violent monsters who are supports. I think Miang would look kind of ugly, especially at how ugly my Chasun looks. Even though Miang wants different stats than other things because she wants some attack and stuff, she's a bit weird. So I think this team is fine though. I'm pretty sure I can run this reliably if I run with reliable people. I usually raid with 2 of my guildmates and they're pretty reliable, but I haven't been raiding because I think I need to farm dungeons more. I've been looking at my runes a lot. I did free rune removal like a month ago and then I re-runed things twice after that. And I did free rune removal 2 weeks ago, and today I re-runed a bunch of TOA stuff, and then last weekend I had to re-rune my mummies and like give them stuff, and then I took that stuff off to put on other stuff. It's like been really hectic. So I'm pretty sure that I know my rune quality very intimately, and I know... Okay, I was talking about something, but I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, okay, so I was talking about why I'm farming runes rather than doing R5. First, I get a lot of gems and grindstones, and I can't put them on any of my runes because I don't have a lot of necro runes, and even on my good runes, like, I've kind of already gemmed everything out. Or not gemmed, I mean grindstoned. I've grindstoned everything out, and I don't feel like I need them right now. I feel like I need the runes. And then necro, so if I think about building a single new monster, it kind of stresses me out because I don't feel like I can, because once I kind of get to this point, like this is my limit, and if I look at building anything else, I'm pretty sure it's just going to look really bad. So that's why I want to get back to farming. And my crystals are pretty low right now. I think I have like 1,500. TOA is resetting tonight, so I'll get my paycheck. And I'll go back to dragons, I believe, for the next month. And Orion, I'm summoning for him after I clear TOA Hard, I'm pretty sure. I will have about 35 summons. Oh, yeah, see, we're wiping. This is like kind of normal. I'm just mad because I'm wiping, but that's kind of typical because my stuff sucks. If I get Fuko, I can look at options for that, and I might also kind of look at Fire Panda. I'm gonna try to be kind of efficient how I've been being recently with things, trying to use things in multiple places, and making their builds work for both places. So yeah. Eventually I'll come up with one, but I'm not too worried about coming up with a Necro team right now, because I don't need Nemesis runes or anything like that. Like, I haven't pulled a Nemesis healer. Ariel actually is in the rotation, so if I pulled him, then... Okay, if I pulled him, then I will try to get on my Necro team immediately, but since I don't really need those runes super badly right now, I don't feel the need to farm Necro, but I need to do it sometime kind of soonish. I think that was the end of the episode. Oh, I need to show you guys my monsters over here. I hope Diaz is the Hall of Heroes because I think he'd be really useful for R5 for me. I got Gemini skill ups for Orion when I do get him. I think we're on 165 plus summons, and we'll add on these 30 or so, however many, 27 right now, and then I'll get some more from TOA. I believe that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed my March rune video. It's been a whole year. Yes! It just feels so awesome. I'm getting so good at this game, or, you know, my account's getting better because I've just been spending a lot of time farming and a lot of crystals. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will catch you guys later. Surprise! I'm back. I wanted to update you guys on my AOs, AD, and Guild Wars stuff because I have a feeling in the future I will build more things for both of those areas. Many more things. So for AO, my main one is my double Lushen team. I also use this Shimate team quite a bit against squishy teams with speed leaders, something like Sierra, Orion, Chasun, or like something squishy. Chasun will probably survive my combo, but as long as I can kill the majority of the monsters on the other team, I'll use this one. I've been testing out using a bruiser team too, but generally I don't use it that much during rush. I don't really use it at all really, but sometimes I do. This team I don't use, and this one I rarely use, so those are all of my AOs. My ADs at the moment, this is my midweek one, and then for the last 20 minutes of rush, 20 to 30 minutes, I've been using my Fria, double fire mummy Rina, and I talked about this earlier in one of my other videos. Sometimes you can do something a little tricky where you set certain monsters in places because it's a little bit inconvenient for certain people to attack them. Like me, maybe because I'm a chick, I don't know if I have small hands or whatever. You know what that means. But sometimes when I'm doing rush hour, it's hard for me to hit the monster that's Rina at the moment when I'm attacking with my Lushens. Where the hell is my other mummy? Okay, so that's just kind of a trick, you know. Sometimes I actually fail amputation magics because sometimes there's a fire monster where my Rina is, and then I'm using my thumb to try to amputation magic, and then I misclick. So even if, for a person like me, it's only like 1 in 200 chance that I misclick, it's still worth setting up your monsters like this. So that's just like a little trick that you guys can do if you wish. Let me set my proper midweek AD back, and then we will head on over to Guild Wars. So Fria, hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay. The Guild Wars. Here are my two defenses. They've been the same for a while. I really haven't expanded my Guild Wars teams in a while now. So yeah, I'll show you guys my AOs actually and kind of talk about it. Okay, so this is one of my main ones. It's been a main one for a while. This team will struggle against will runes, but sometimes, like, I'll use it against this enemy team, because even if Sierra has will, I can squall her and then I've gotten rid of most of the threat, but my Lagmaron only has an 81% chance to crit her and kill her. I don't know if he'll kill her if he doesn't crit, but this is one of my main ones. Sometimes I'll use Theo here too, but rarely. Generally I use Lagmaron. My second main Guild Wars team is this one, but oftentimes I use this team a lot actually because a lot of enemy monsters have debuffs, so I use this one quite a bit too, just a bruiser team. Standard copper team, I use that one a fair bit, and then my Ramagos team I haven't been using recently, mainly because we haven't really had any tough guild wars at all. We've been finishing G1 a lot, so I don't really have to try hard. I talked about this earlier, but if I ever need to use Ramagos for guild wars and try hard, I will put my Rina's runes onto him to use him. So that's my Ramagos team. And then my last team, I actually don't use Bernard in that slot, but I'll use this one quite a bit, and then sometimes I'll use a Lagmaron here. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Against teams with no attack bar booster, like this second team right here, I can use this Lushen team with Lagmaron. So yeah, those are all of my AOs, or not AOs, Guild War offenses and Guild War defenses. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will catch you guys later.